Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary, and welcome to episode 418. It's been a little while. Of course, it's been a little while, a minute before we had a podcast episode out, but welcome back nonetheless. So I hope you're keeping well and safe, and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. So Garry-solo show, as you might have guessed. Nobody to interrupt me, nobody to butt in, try and get there first with the related. Normally Adam gives that a go, but, you know, due to his Wi-Fi, it's a bit of a fail most of the time from old Adam. But yeah, I hope you guys are keeping well. The round table landed last week. Was it last week or this week? This week, sorry. Yeah. The February round table landed this week. That was a really good laugh, that one. So that was myself, Harry, Maria and Matt, and we spoke about just some Valentine's goodness for Doctor Who, as it's the month of love and all that stuff. We picked out some cool companions we'd love to go on a date with, and you know, all that stuff. It was a real just fun, silly episode. Good laugh though. And those guys are always entertaining. So check that out if you've not listened yet. You can do that by making sure you're following or subscribing to the podcast in your fave podcast app of choice. That way you won't miss an episode when it lands, mostly on a weekly basis when there's stuff to talk about, which is going to lead me into... we're on the social too, by the way. I'll finish this stuff up. We're on the socials too. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, Blue Sky, all of that stuff. If you just head over to the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, there are links to those things. Give us a like and a follow on those channels. We chat Doctor Who all the time, in between episodes and all that stuff. And we have a really cool free Discord server. Loads of chat always going on in there. So you can find a link to that on the website as well. And while you're on the website, remember to check out all of the reviews and editorial pieces and all that stuff from the writing team. Some really cool stuff there. Loads of Big Finish reviews, all of that stuff. Go and check that all out. Now, before I get on to the news, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the Big Blue Box moving forward. So, a couple of months ago, I put a blog post out on the website, which was about what's going to happen with the podcast and everything moving forward. That was at the middle of January. It was an announcement article that went through the new podcasting network that we've created called Cosmic Echoes, which Big Blue Box falls inside of that. Our new podcast for Blake 7 called Federation Strike, which has been going so well, by the way. If you've not checked out that show, if you're a fan of Blake 7, then go and check that out. There's a link to the show notes in that. For that, and also a little bit of what's going to go on with the Big Blue Box. And in that article, I said that the Big Blue Box is still our mainstay show. It's not going anywhere. Don't worry, we're still going to bring you content, etc. And we're still going to do the roundtables and all that stuff. Now, what I'd like to say about the frequency of our episodes moving forward, Adam and I have made the decision to move the Big Blue Box to a seasonal format. So what that means is, and I alluded to this a little bit in the article, but instead of us trying to do a weekly episode all the time, it's just a bit difficult when Adam travels quite a bit. He's over in the US half the year. He's back here in the UK half the year. So time zones are a bit difficult sometimes to do that stuff. Coupled with the fact that, like it or not, there's just not as much news kicking around with Doctor Who these days. And I'm not talking about sort of the ramp up news for when there's a new series about to start, like we are now with season 2 that's just around the corner. I'm not talking about that stuff. I mean in general, when there's no news about spin-offs, there's no news about what's happening with the show in general, there's no merch to talk about, all of that stuff. It's just a bit thin on the ground essentially for Doctor Who content. So as a result of those things, Adam and I are not going to do a weekly podcast anymore for the Big Blue Box. Now, that doesn't mean that these are going away. Not at all. We will still come back and do a block of episodes as seasons. So what that means essentially is when season 2 lands next month, in April, we will come back and we will do a weekly episode as we go through that series. So there'll be, I don't know how many episodes there's going to be in season 2. I honestly can't remember. I did know, but I can't remember. But say, for example, if there's 10 episodes, Adam and I will be back for 10 weeks and we will review every episode, and then we'll probably do a bit of a wrap-up show as a bit of a bonus ep and so on. And then when the spin-off arrives, we'll come back and we'll review that, and that'll be another season of shows, and we'll do that. And then when the Christmas special comes in, and we'll do that. And we're also going to add in also as bonus episodes a few of the little animated episodes or animated stories, that we haven't reviewed yet. So as you know, long-time listeners, the Grizzled Ancients, you guys will know that over the last decade, we've reviewed pretty much everything of Doctor Who. All of Classic Who, bar some of the animated stuff for the Lost episodes, all of Modern Who, spin-offs, Torchwood, Class, the whole thing. We've done it all. But there are some animated bits left. So we're going to add those in as bonus episodes in and around these seasons. So that's the deal with the Big Blue Box. It's absolutely not going anywhere. We're not cancelling the show. We're not doing any of that stuff. It's just a way of us to maintain our enthusiasm for Doctor Who while also giving you guys some actual content to listen to. And don't get me wrong, if there's some really big news that lands to do with the show at some point, then Adam and I will obviously make time and hop on and do a sort of a one-off episode to fill you guys in. But for now, that's what's going to happen moving forward. So after today, which is Friday the 28th of February, then we would then move to the seasonal stuff. So you won't hear from us now in terms of the weekly episode until season 2 lands in April, which will be, so what I'm going to do is all of the content that we've done thus far since March 2014, believe it or not, everything that we've done up to now, I'm just essentially going to lump into a bucket and call it season 1. And that's going to be all of our content up to now. When we come back in April to review Shooty's new season, I'll call that the Big Blue Box season 2. We'll review all that. When the spin-off arrives, The War Between Land and the Sea will come back. That'll be season 3, etc. Rinse and repeat. So that, for us, that feels like a much better way of still being into Doctor Who, but not having to force the content. And it's the same with some other Doctor Who podcasts that I've listened to over the years. I used to listen to loads of Doctor Who podcasts, but nowadays I think I only listen to about 3 or 4 podcasts. And I can hear it in some of the hosts' voices as well. There's that kind of, the big story that's been doing the rounds over the last week that's in the press at the moment. I've heard other podcasts who have spoken about that and given their opinions on it and what the potential repercussions, if those rumours are true, within that story. I've heard those guys talk about it in a kind of, somebody mentioned it on our Discord the other day, that one of the podcasts, it was just a sense of apathy rather than concern or being too bothered about it. So I've heard the tone and the way that other hosts have talked about Doctor Who over the last couple of months, that it's just not, there's not enough meat on the bones to really do a quality weekly Doctor Who podcast, in my opinion. For other podcasts who are still rocking and rolling on a weekly or fortnightly basis, whatever, I'm not saying anything that your show isn't quality. That's not what I meant. But for Adam and I specifically, and our opinion on Doctor Who at this moment, there's just not enough to dive into and give you quality content every single week. So before I waffle on any further, in a nutshell, the Big Blue Box is moving to a seasonal format. And after today's episode, we will be back to review season 2 in April. And also, lastly, I think I mentioned it, but the roundtable episodes, they will continue to go out every month, though. So I love doing that show with those guys and the writing team. That's always really fun and entertaining. So, and those guys love doing it. So we're not going to do anything with that. That's still going to be a monthly thing with those guys. So that's an update on the Blue Box. But having said that, because we haven't spoken to you guys in a while, we have got a bit of news to go through. So first up, we have the announcement that you guys probably already know this, but just to recap, Doctor Who Season 2 has now got the start date, which is Saturday, the 12th of April. It's going to go out here in the UK at 8 a.m. on BBC iPlayer, and then later on in the day it will be aired on BBC One. So that's just in the UK. The time for BBC One, we're not quite sure yet. It will probably be around 7 p.m-ish, I would say, somewhere between 6:30, 7:30, even in that time window somewhere. And it will also go out, obviously, on Disney Plus. So just convert whatever time zone you're in, just do a conversion from 8 a.m. in the UK to your time zone. That's likely when it's going to land for Disney Plus in your area. So that's the headline news, I would say, is that we now have a season 2 proper time now for when it's going to go out, the 12th of April, 8 a.m. here in the UK on iPlayer, later on in the day on BBC One, and Disney Plus internationally in your time zone. The other bit of news that dropped alongside this was that if you remember back in the trailer that they dropped for this last month, there was that little snippet of the cartoon based episode where it's got that old school Steamboat Mickey Cuphead video game, old school animated style thing where it looks very retro and very cool. We've now learnt that the guest star that's going to play the character Mr. Ring-a-Ding is going to be Alan Cumming, which is very cool. And it's kind of not really a surprise, I would say. They needed somebody quite, quite flamboyant and quite funny, but also very entertaining at the same time. So Russell T Davies says on this particular news story that only Alan Cumming could give a runaway cartoon such wit, malice, danger and fun. He makes the whole universe of Doctor Who wilder and madder than ever, and it's an absolute honour to welcome him aboard the TARDIS. So Alan Cumming will be starring as that animated character, Mr. Ring-a-Ding, which is cool. A little bit of waffle for that character. He's a happy, funny, sing-along cartoon who lives in Sunnytown and his friend Sunshine Sally. However, in 1952, after years of repeats in cinemas across the land, Mr. Ring-a-Ding suddenly looks beyond the screen and sees the real world outside. And the consequences are terrifying. So that actually sounds like quite an interesting concept. I imagine it's going to be like a Roger Rabbit style thing with live action stuff mixed with animated bits and bobs. We'll wait and see. But anyway, season 2. Set your calendars and your times for that sort of stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts, actually, guys, on the time shift on this one. So with season 1, here in the UK, they did the midnight release on BBC iPlayer, and then it went out on BBC One the following day. And now they've shifted it. So I'd love your thoughts on what you feel is a better time to put Doctor Who out if you love 8 a.m, if you're an early bird, if you want to catch it before work or whatever, then that's cool. Or did you really like the anticipation and that if you're a bit of a night owl, did you like the whole staying up until midnight and checking it out then? So let us know. Hit us up over on X. There's a link in the show notes for our social stuff. So yeah, let us know what you think to that. Before I move on with some of the other stories, and they are sort of short and sweet, this one is a follow-on from a story that was in The Sun last week. And I won't go into too much detail because I've commented on this a couple of times in our Discord and on some other places where, as you know, we don't really dwell on big negative stories from media outlets such as this, like The Sun, The Mirror, that kind of thing. Now, I will caveat by saying that in the past, these guys have been correct on a few things in the past. So that's not to say that what these guys are saying is completely false. There could be some truth in this stuff. I don't know. But I don't want to dwell on it too much. It's a bit of a negative story. It's a follow-on. So last week, The Sun basically said that Doctor Who is on the verge of being cancelled. I say cancelled, on a very, very long hiatus. They've had some insider people, some people that worked on the show who are now a little bit disgruntled, a little bit miffed because there doesn't seem to be any movement forward to season 3 and onwards beyond that. So we know that season 2 was filmed a while ago. It was filmed very close, if not directly on from season 1. It was all done together. And there's just been no progression for season 3. We know that Russell T Davies, I think, is probably got a bunch of ideas for season 3, but certainly I don't. Again, we could be wrong. We don't really know the ins and outs of it, but I don't think anything's been put to paper yet for any specific stuff for season 3. And we know that Disney have not committed to Doctor Who yet past season 2. So initially, when the whole deal was done between the BBC and Bad Wolf and Disney Plus, we know that they were commissioned for, I believe it was 26 episodes of Doctor Who, as in Doctor Who as a whole, not just the shows. That includes Christmas specials, spin-offs, all that stuff. So I believe, and I think somebody did the maths in our Discord the other day, that when you have season 1 and 2 together, plus the Christmas special, plus the upcoming spin-off, The War Between Land and the Sea, that equals 26 episodes, so that's it. So we've not heard from Disney Plus or the BBC about a season 3, anything beyond that. So the leaks that the Sun newspaper, they printed it earlier on, was that a load of crew members are a bit miffed because Bad Wolf had supposedly taken down all of the sets for Doctor Who, stuck it away in storage, and then started to advertise on socials and some other media that they've got loads of studio space. And the way that they worded Doctor Who was very past tense. It was like, we've produced and filmed, Doctor Who here, blah, blah, blah. Basically saying that the sets are now gone and we've got all the studio space. Any production companies that want to make a TV show, we've got everything here that you need. And then the actual leaks themselves from the staff members were, excuse me, that they had not been told that they were going to be working on Doctor Who. And some of the upper management people had said that prepare yourselves for a bit of a break for Doctor Who. The show is going to go on a bit of a hiatus. It's going to be anywhere from a 5 to a 10-year break for Doctor Who. To follow on from this, The Sun today has just put an article out that's titled Last Doctor, ? Doctor Who set to cancel the Christmas special episode for the first time in 6 years as show faces being axed. And again, it says disgruntled crew are worried for their jobs. I won't read all of it. It basically goes on to say Doctor Who Christmas special 2025 is set to be scrapped. As the show's future hangs in a balance, it looks very likely the sci-fi show's festive episode won't air for the first time in years after a plunge in ratings. I'll get onto that in a second. So they go on to say that the BBC finally confirmed the Doctor Who will return in April, but Ncuti is already believed to have filmed his regeneration exit scene, and the crew now fear the BBC will axe the show altogether after 62 years. A source, I love that, a source told The Sun, there is a lot of uncertainty surrounding Doctor Who at the moment, and it looks like the beloved Christmas special won't be happening. It just seems the ep wasn't commissioned. People had no doubt be hoping the next series would be in the bag, and that would include the festive edition, but things are very much hanging in the balance as bosses don't even know if Ncuti will be returning at all, let alone if there is time to bash out a new episode for Christmas Day. So it's typically filmed a year in advance. The Christmas special was expected to be locked into the schedule, but with the current 26 episode deal, which covered the anniversary specials, the Star Beast, Wild Blue Yonder and the Giggle, plus the 2023-2024 festive episodes, 2 8-episode series and 5 spin-offs, now nearing its end, the future show is hanging by a thread. So they're sort of dramatising this a little bit. So, as I said, this is a bit of a knock-on and a follow-on from their previous story about Doctor Who. Now, just want to say that there's been a few people that have said in the past, our sources tell us and blah, blah, blah. Nobody knows anything about Doctor Who at this point. You can listen to YouTubers talk about this. You can listen to podcasters say, we've spoken to people in the industry. I've spoken to people at work at Doctor Who. Nobody's saying anything. So don't buy into that too much. The whole, it's exactly the same as this thing with the Sun and these newspaper outlets and media outlets. Nobody knows anything. And the things that people do know, it's all the same news. There's nobody bringing us anything new to light here that we don't know already. So for the past month, maybe more, and Adam and I, we know people within, if you want to put it that way, quote unquote, on the inside. Adam and I know people involved in the making of Doctor Who, and we have done for years, and we've spoken to those people. It's all the same stuff. Essentially, no new Doctor Who is happening at this time. Disney Plus have not confirmed publicly that more Doctor Who is going to be made. Conversations are happening behind the scenes with that stuff, but everybody just knows the same thing right now. And that is, there's just a little bit of a limbo period. Now, the thing with this is, lots of TV shows have this thing going on. The only difference is we're hearing about it due to supposed leaks and stuff like that. All of your favourite TV shows that you've ever watched over the years have all gone through this at some point or another. You just don't know about it. That's the crux of the matter. The only other time I can think of this sort of thing blowing up in the media was a few years ago when Lucasfilm was making the Obi-Wan series. They announced the show, they announced the filming was going to happen and blah, blah, blah. And then it leaked that the filming wasn't going to happen because the script wasn't right. They weren't happy with it. And they had to go back, rewrite some of the script. That delayed filming, blah, blah, blah. Fandom picked up on that. Everyone went nuts, saying that the show was going to be cancelled, blah, blah, blah. And then Ewan McGregor came out and said, look, everything's fine. This happens with TV all the time, where the script will be done, you'll get to a certain point, production's about to kick off, but then either the producer, the writer, directors, combination of people actually say, do you know what, this doesn't feel quite right, we need to go back and tweak the script, we're going to delay filming, but we'll come to it, blah, blah, blah. This is no different to that. All of your favourite shows that you speak about in fandom, Game of Thrones, I don't want to go through all of them, but, Stranger Things, all of these things, they all have delays and limbo periods of some degree. The only difference is that we're hearing about it through leaks because it's Doctor Who and it's a big franchise, etc. Same thing happens with Star Wars and all that stuff. So what I will say is, of course, there is no smoke without fire. I get that. I understand that there probably are crew members that are a bit miffed at the moment because if they don't know what's going on with the show. Of course they are. It's their livelihood. It's their job. They want to make sure that Doctor Who is going to be made into the future, so they have a job, etc. I get that. And if that's not happening and there's some frustration there, then they will speak to media outlets and all that stuff. So while some part of me thinks that, yes, there is some truth to some of this stuff, the other part of me thinks, look, I wouldn't lose sleep over the fact that the Sun newspaper has, given us through their crystal ball and their supposed sources and leaks have given us, the concrete update on what's happening with the future of Doctor Who. I wouldn't go to sleep, on that. But I would say that, there could be some truth in this stuff. Just don't worry about it. Just, carry on, as we always do with these things. You have to remember that we've been down this road before with Doctor Who. And, any time that an era of Doctor Who is coming to an end and a new Doctor is taking over and all this stuff, we always have these big stories in the papers where, something terrible's happened behind the scenes at the BBC and something bad's happening and all that stuff. So anyway, the Sun newspaper, following on from saying that the show's about to be axed or put on hiatus, now saying that as a knock-on effect, the seasonal special, the Christmas special, is not happening. And I'd also like to say, just while we're on the subject, that as much as it pains me to say it, and I've said it publicly for a couple of years now, I honestly think that putting the show on hiatus is actually a good move. I do think that's a good thing because, Doctor Who's not been at its best. I think we can agree on that. It's not been at its best for a few years now. And I think just because the show's not had a chance to just take a breather and just take stock of what's happening in the world and all this stuff, it's just like a steamroller that's just constantly going and going and going. And that's fine. That's worked for TV shows that are, like soaps and, things like that and stuff. You would expect that to just trundle on and never take a break and just always be there. Unless it's Neighbours or Home and Away, whatever one was cancelled. But with Doctor Who, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it feels like it's gone on and on and on. And the last few years, it's not quite, I don't want to get into it like, if you love Doctor Who right now, then excellent. You know, that's great. I'm so happy that you love Doctor Who, and it's great. I'm not saying that, and I think Adam and I are aligned on this. I'm not saying that we hate Doctor Who or anything like that at all. Not at all. Just the quality of the storylines, the cohesiveness of some of this stuff, and just our enjoyment factor, which is part of the reason why we're putting the show on a seasonal format, by the way. It's just having to come back every week and, force this stuff is not good. So I would say putting the show on a bit of a break, a bit of a hiatus is actually a very good move for the show. You can clean house a little bit. You can just take a breather, get it back on track to where you want it to be, and come back with a proper bang and all that stuff. But we'll see. I'm just going to close this story out now because I don't want to spend too much time devoting this stuff to the Sun newspaper. But obviously, if anything does kick off, big news, if the show gets, the news breaks that it's been commissioned for season 3 and 4 and whatever onwards and all that stuff, or if they go the other way and not axe it, but, put it on a break, then Adam and I will come back and do a special episode and give you our thoughts on that stuff. Right, some other news from around the Whoniverse. The Ninth Doctor and Rose are back for more adventures. Not on TV, of course. I think Chris Eccleston would rather go to his grave at this point in time rather than having to do the Doctor on screen anymore. But Chris Eccleston and Billy Piper are back for Big Finish for audio adventures, which ties in nicely to the anniversary of those two, kicking off the show back in 2005. So from Big Finish, the Doctor and Rose want you to come with them back to the Powell estate where the Doctor's past returns to haunt him, and out into the universe where enemies old and new are waiting. So Chris Eccleston said, "I'm so happy to be back recording more adventures for the Ninth Doctor with Billy. I don't think my Doctor exists without Rose. He's a one-man, one-companion kind of alien. We've explored him on his own at Big Finish as a loner, but there's resilience, bravery, and a deep empathy for Billy as Rose. That's why I do this. They complete each other." Oh, very nice. And Billy Piper said, "I can't think of a better time for Rose to reunite with her first Doctor than now. 20 years after she first ran into the TARDIS and towards adventure, here we are again, me and Chris, ready to have fun facing the universe and the monsters together." So this is produced by Matt Fitton over at Big Finish, and they are going to be available on physical and download. Big Finish have sort of moved away from physical a little bit with certain stories, but I think this is going to be based on a physical release and a digital download, and these are going to be available in August this year. It's just called The Ninth Doctor Adventures, and the cover art is very classic 2005 Doctor Who, and there's going to be some special editions and whatnot. So you can pick up the download at $9.99, or you can pick up the download plus the collector's edition CD for $11.99. Just a note that the collector's edition CDs are limited to 1,500 copies, and you can also get, which is quite crazy by the look of it, you can also get a complete series multi-buy bundle that will have all 12 releases available to pre-order at a special discounted price for £102 for downloads, £126 for the download and the CD, again exclusively from Big Finish. So you can get the whole lot in one shot as well, which is pretty cool. So yes, sounds rather good. The Ninth Doctor and Rose back for Big Finish in August this year. Some TV update stuff, a little update on the season 2 stuff. The actor Christopher Chung will be joining season 2 of Doctor Who, the Australian actor who's in the currently in the show Slow Horses with Gary Oldman. I think that's on Apple TV, I believe. Is apparently quite popular in that, and has also been in the film Blitz. Is also a stage actor as well here in the West End. Russell T Davis says, "I'm a huge fan of Slow Horses and I was excited to get Chris involved. He brings all of his strength and style and talent to one of the darkest, toughest episodes we've ever made. As for whether Cassio is an ally or an enemy of the Doctor, you'll have to wait and see, but I can promise It's one hell of a meeting. Sounds rather ominous. And then Chris Chung said, thrilled to step into the Hooniverse as Cassio for season 2. The show is legendary and getting to be a part of this new era feels surreal. Working with Russell and Shooty has been a dream. The episode is huge, packed with everything Who fans love, heart, adventure, and a touch of madness. I can't wait for everyone to see what's in store. It's going to be iconic. Get ready. So they've picked up this episode quite a lot. Sounds rather good. Anyway, Chris Chung joins the cast of season 2. Some cool stuff here for children in need. Love stories like this. Daleks and Cybermen have been sold at auction for children in need. So a special auction of Doctor Who props and costumes have raised a staggering £245,000 for children in need, which is very cool. So the auctioneer Prop Store has said more than 2,000 international fans have bidded on more than 170 lots. The biggest earner was a Dalek used on screen for Jodie Whittaker's final episode. That sold for £16,000. We also have a Cyberman costume from one of Peter Capaldi's stories. That went for £15,000. The TARDIS prop used in the biographical film about the creation of Doctor Who, An Adventure in Space and Time, sold for £12,000. Crikey. The brand director for Doctor Who, Vanessa Hamilton, said, "We're so incredibly proud of the results of this auction and to support children in need. It's amazing to be able to share parts of Doctor Who with the fan community. We hope they enjoy owning a piece of TV history." Several costumes were on sale as well. The wedding dress worn by Catherine Tate was £4,000. The highest earner was Whittaker's outfit. That sold for nearly £10,000. The hand-painted recreation of Van Gogh's thatched cottage at Cordoville, 1890, that was used in the Matt Smith episode, that was £8,000. So loads of cool stuff. Loads of cool stuff went up for auction. So that was a really good cause as well. And yeah, I love feel-good stories like that. They've sold off a load of props and raised some good money for a good cause. So fair play to the Beeb for that, and Prop Store. Nice one. And lastly, don't forget that the Doctor Who Season 7 Blu-ray collection is still available to order from all the usual outlets. Now, it's a bit of a weird one, this, because typically when these stories go up, these Blu-ray stories land, Adam and I often say, look, you have to get in there and pre-order these if you want. Now, it has sold out at a couple of places. Rare Waves is one of them. You can't pre-order that anymore. It's sold out. However, if you still want one, fear not. You can still pre-order from today onwards. And presumably, when this lands next Monday, if they've got any stock, you'll be able to do that as well. So over at Zavvi and over at Amazon, they've still got the pre-order up for grabs. So it looks like a really good set. We spoke about this a couple of months ago when it was announced, but it's for Season 7, the John Pertwee era. 4 really good stories and 2 amazing stories. So Spearhead from Space, Pertwee's first story, the Doctor Who and the Solarians, the Ambassadors of Death, and then finishes off with Inferno. So stories 1 and 4, absolute classics, brilliant episodes from Pertwee's era, really good. And then the other thing that's really cool, Adam and I went to the Spearhead from Space event at the BFI recently, and they played a trailer for all of the special features that are going to be on this set. It looks fantastic, really good, and a really emotional one as well. Most notably, on these Blu-ray box sets, there's a feature called In Conversation, where Matthew Sweet interviews somebody who was involved in the making of that series, and this time he's with John Levine, who plays Sergeant Benton, and we got a little unique clip of that interview, and it looks really emotional, very, very cool. And then you've got all the other stuff as well behind the sofa. You've got Toby Haydock doing his usual investigative little feature, where this time he's uncovering the story of Malcolm Hulke, and then you've got a brand new documentary or mini feature about Nicholas Courtney, and then loads of other features as well. It looks really cool. So I know I'm plugging this a little bit, and I know a ton of you have already pre-ordered it, but if you haven't yet, go over to, I'll put a link in the show notes to these, go and give that a pre-order, and it's out this Monday. And annoyingly, I've already seen people post on the socials that they've got their set early, which is bloody annoying because I never get my set early, but there we go. And that wraps up the recent news and what's been going on in the world of Doctor Who. So, as I said, let me know over on X or Facebook what you think to some of these stories. Have you pre-ordered the box set? Are you looking forward to it? What are your views on this big story about Doctor Who potentially being put on hiatus from The Sun and some other papers? What are your views on that? Come and chat with us in a Discord as well. Would love to know your thoughts on all this stuff. And I think on that note, we will wrap there for episode 418. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box podcast. That was a wee news wrap up and a bit of an update on what's going to happen moving forward with the Big Blue Box. Thank you so much for staying with us as we've done this nearly every week until March. Since March 2014, it's been so cool to fill you in on what's happening with Doctor Who all the time and go through the reviews and speak about 60 plus years of Doctor Who. It's been awesome. But sounds like we're going away, but we're not. We're going to a seasonal format, just to recap, and we'll be back in April to give you our reviews on season 2 of Doctor Who. In the meantime, make sure you're following or subscribing to the podcast. You can do that in whatever app you're listening to this now on. Just make sure you hit follow. You won't miss an announcement when future episodes land. And also, just as a reminder, the monthly roundtable chats, they will still happen as well every single month, so you won't miss those either. We're on the socials too, X, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, all those things. Head over to the website or just do a search on those channels. Come and connect with us and chat Doctor Who. You can check out the website bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk for those things, plus all the articles and reviews and whatnot from the writing team. Go and check those out. And also, don't forget to remember to check out my co-host channel, Adam's YouTube stuff. It's called The Geek's Handbag. Loads of cool geekery stuff there. Grab a tea, grab a coffee, and just check out all of Adam's stuff. It's The Geek's Handbag, and he's on the socials under the same name. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and remember,